Okay, here's another technique that can help us cross that abyss between knowing and doing. It's called the power mindset. Each and every one of us have two completely different mindsets which we can operate from. One's called the power mindset, and from here you can see unlimited opportunities in your future. You see adversity as a challenge which can and will be overcome. You look to create and not complain. And you're not afraid to dream. Now the other mindset is just the opposite. From here you see change of any kind as frightening, as negative. And your impulse is to focus on the prospect or even the likelihood of failing. You visualize what can go wrong instead of visualizing what's going to go right. Sometimes you feel victimized, and sometimes you feel guilty, and you doubt your abilities to reach those goals. Now, no one can completely erase fear and doubt from their mind altogether. And in fact, these things in the right amount are healthy because they keep us humble, they keep us honest, and keep our egos from rushing towards arrogance. But when self-doubt grows into the lack of confidence, and the questioning of ourselves and the questioning of our ability, well, it can hurt our lives. And it can hurt our chances of achieving success in any kind of challenging endeavor. Okay, so now how does all this relate to building muscle and losing body fat? Well, remember what I told you earlier, which is that the body is a servant to the mind. So if you don't strongly believe in what you're doing, and if you cannot overcome feelings of self-doubt and uncertainty, it doesn't matter how much information you have about exercise, nutrition, supplementation, it doesn't matter how many pieces of gym equipment you have access to, you'll fail at this. Time and time again, you'll fail. And that's why we're dealing with this important issue right now before we get to the nuts and bolts of the Body for Life program itself. It all comes back to that abyss I told you about earlier, that void that separates those who know from those who know and do. A big part of crossing the abyss is living with the power mindset, learning how to stop uncertainty instead of letting it stop you.
When people get in a position where their back is really against the wall, I know that was my case. I felt totally out of control.
I think a lot of people drop out, but you just got to stick with it and do your best.
Unfortunately, you can't get confidence from a pill. You can't buy it, you can't rent it, and I guarantee you can't fake it. And of all the incredible effects technology and medicine can have on our lives, increasing our self-worth just isn't one of them. The key to living with the power mindset is understanding that you have to nurture it daily. Think about this for a minute. If you went an entire day without eating, you think you'd get hungry? Think you'd run out of energy? You think your body would get weak? Of course it would. Well, your self-confidence needs nourishment on a daily basis too. You need to feed your confidence in order to live with the power mindset.
If you improve your physique, you improve your confidence, your self-esteem, you're going to be a winner.
It starts with being in shape, but the end result is confidence level. It's your existence changing, not just your body.
It's a sense of accomplishment that I can achieve anything.
One of the ways that we can help build and strengthen the power mindset is by creating what I call a daily win list. It's kind of like a game that we use to celebrate our progress. What you do is simply take out a sheet of paper and write down 5 things each night that you know you want to accomplish that next day for you to be able to look back and be pleased with your progress. Now, your daily goals should include things that take you in the direction of your 12-week goals. For example, on my own list, I always write, do my exercise, eat 6 quality protein and carbohydrate containing meals, drink 10 glasses of water, and then I put in a few things that I want to get accomplished at work, or sometimes I even write down what I want to get done in recreation. You see, when you make a list like this every night and you look back at it the next night, you can measure your progress. And you know what I do is I put a score next to each accomplishment. I put 20 points. I also write the word win next to it. So this is why I call it my win list. And I try to get 100 points every day. It makes me feel that I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. And sometimes I only get 80 points, sometimes I only get 60, but when I get 100, I feel more powerful, I feel more confident. And it's really as simple as that. Okay, now after you've made a list of the 5 things you need to accomplish tomorrow, I want you to look at that list and identify the item that you have the most apprehension about. For example, if you think that you're least likely to complete one of your objectives, then I want you to put a number 1 next to that item and attack that item first. I call this doing feared things first, and it's one of the ways that we build the power mindset. It's one of the ways that we get in the pattern of attacking things that are holding us back. And so here's how simple this is. I have a tendency to try to put off my aerobic exercise. Sometimes I'll put it off to the very last thing of the day, and once in a while I'll miss it altogether, which isn't good. That's not what I want to have happen. So what I do now is I put a number 1 next to my aerobic exercise, and I get out of bed and I just do it and get it over with. And when I do, I just feel more confident. It's that simple. Now for you, it might be that you have been putting off a meeting with your boss, or you've been trying to find the courage to confront someone and explain how you really feel about something. You see, these things are eating you away inside, and you need to attack them. Don't run away from them. Now, go through your list and put a number 2 next to the item that you're second most likely to not get done. Then put a number 3, 4, and 5. Now, number 5 should be the thing that you're most likely to get done, the thing that you really don't have any apprehension at all about. Okay, now after you've completed that exercise, what you really will have done is made a written list of rules or promises. It's not to me, and they're not to your spouse or your friends, but they're to yourself. And the vows we make to ourselves, although they seem like the easiest ones to break, are by far the most important ones to honor. You see, the very essence of confidence is self-trust. Now, would you trust anyone who repeatedly lied to you? Of course you wouldn't. So if you've developed a pattern of not honoring self-promises, this is a great time to make a change. You see, if you can't honor and trust and depend on your own word, well, that may be at the root of a lot of the challenges you're facing. A lot more challenges than you realize.
As they say, how do you build character? You make little promises to yourself and you keep them. So I was keeping those little promises I was making to myself, so I felt mentally better.
Okay, here's an example. Let's say you know deep down inside that you should be doing something. Everyone knows they should be exercising on a regular basis, and most people promise that they're going to do it, but they don't. And this eats away at their self-confidence. It eats away at their sense of self-trust. It eats away at them inside and out. Okay, now once you've begun to honor self-promises, the next thing you need to do is focus on progress, not perfection. You see, perfection doesn't exist. And if your objective is to achieve perfection in any aspect of your life, with your body, with your relationships, with your careers, what you're really doing is guaranteeing yourself a lifetime filled with deficiency, failure, and uncertainty. That's the opposite of the power mindset. It's very important that you learn to understand that progress is the ultimate process here. You see, the power mindset can only be nurtured by celebrating progress on a daily basis. So what you should do is enjoy every single day. Enjoy the progress of that day. You know, yesterday I was working on an article for my magazine, and I just worked and worked on it, and I got nowhere. Or so I thought. But I looked back at the end of the day, and you know what? I celebrated the fact that I found 3 different ways to try to write an article that didn't work. And that's how simple this can be. You have to define the rules of your game. And if you invent a game you can't win, you will never, ever consistently live with the power mindset. You'll see failure as your path. But in actuality, if you look at it a different way, you'll see success as your path. These are the keys of living with the power mindset.
I was one of those people that sets my clock back about 10 to 15 minutes. So thinking that I'll get up earlier and then hit snooze about 20 times, roll out of bed in time to take a shower and get to work on time. About 10, 11 o'clock, I'd get really tired, run down. Lunch, I'd run out and get a burger at McDonald's. I'd get home from work and possibly take a nap or watch some TV. I would order either fast food, pizza, Chinese, or go out to McDonald's again and just be worn out. I didn't do much of anything. My life got in such a rut, and it wasn't one particular area, it was everything. And I got so down on my life. It was my job. I was settling for just mediocrity in my relationships, in my physical well-being, my mental well-being. I think we all get comfortable at a certain point and we quit striving for excellence, and I was just tired of it. And then I stumbled across a magazine and I saw the competition, and this is it. This is my way out. This is the way that I can change everything about my life. I had lifted weights some when I was younger, and I really, really liked it. I enjoyed it a lot, but back then it was a men's sport. Women didn't bodybuild, they didn't lift weights because they got too big, supposedly. And I just kept looking at the magazine. I bought every magazine that I possibly could, kept looking in the mirror, things like that, and everything went so quickly that it was over before I knew it. I'm eating 6 meals a day now, so I have to prepare. Work is so much better. I get so much more accomplished. I leave the office and go work out, come back, eat my meal. If I've got time, run some errands, but try to be in bed by at least 11 and then get up and start the next day. You just don't give up. You keep on. You keep that drive and you keep that determination. You don't slack. There's no way in the world I would go back to the way I was before.
Here's another important technique. It's learning how to harness the power of positive pressure. Most people in America have been conditioned to believe that they should coast through life as much as possible. You see, contrary to popular belief, deep down inside, you want pressure. In fact, I think you need pressure to feel excited and passionate about life. Hey, here's a classic example. The comic book hero Superman was only super when he was under pressure. Without pressure, he was just Clark Kent. The fact of the matter is, most people are capable of so much more than they think they are. But their potential is being smothered by what society teaches them. That pressure's a bad thing, that it hurts rather than helps our efforts to improve. And eventually, after years of conditioning, most people see pressure as an obstacle, not the powerful driving force that it really is. Think about this. The fundamental principle of building a stronger body is the process of overcoming stress, or of overcoming resistance. We force our muscles to work, and this in effort forces our muscles to adapt. If we put no pressure at all on those muscles, if we present them with nothing more than couches and TVs, they don't develop. They atrophy, they dissipate, they weaken. Hey, the same thing applies to your self-improvement and growth in other areas. Your career, your relationship, your knowledge. And it's through the power of positive pressure that you can get anything in your life moving forward, that you can get it to grow and improve.
It's life, transformation, moving beyond obstacles and barriers, self-limiting beliefs and concepts and ideas, self-imposed doubts and limitations, and becoming more of everything.
When I first started this, they were so skeptical. There were some people some of my friends really hurt my feelings and made me mad.
I think it's real important to surround yourself with positive people if you're going to undertake this. Just don't accept any negative input. Don't let people tell you you can't do it. You can do it.
However, later in this program, I'm going to teach you something else, and that is that working out too much is a negative thing. It's the same way with pressure. It's a double-edged sword. Too much is not healthy. It can damage us. There's a balance that we need to achieve. We need to have enough pressure to keep us moving and excited and feeling alive, but not so much that we blow a fuse. The bottom line is that everything in our life will grow if we subject it to just the right amount of positive pressure, whether it's your muscles or your mind. So what you need to do is invite challenges back into your life that you might have pushed away. And rather than run from pressure situations or pretend they don't exist, you can face them. In fact, you can seek them out. And in doing so, you'll find that positive pressure brings out your best. The key to continued success is to continue to invite positive pressure into your life. This means consistently readjusting your goals, consistently pushing yourself to grow, and never letting yourself get comfortable.
What I have found that it's actually the hard part is getting to that goal that you're trying to achieve with fitness, and then it becomes a part of your lifestyle, and maintaining it is fairly simple.
Another one of the important techniques that we need to develop in order to cross that abyss, in order to scale that canyon between knowing and doing, is what I call transforming patterns of action. To understand this, I need to let you know about a little basic physics. It's a fundamental rule that getting an object at rest to begin moving requires more energy than it takes to keep it moving. Think of a rocket, for example. 90% of the power is spent trying to get the blasted thing into the air. The remaining 10%, that's all it takes to keep the thing going. The same scientific principle applies to redirecting our bodies. You see, once you begin the initial process of getting started, of blasting off, so to speak, it requires much less energy to keep going, unless you stop. You see, then you've got to start the process all over again. So once you get moving, keep moving. Now, of course, that's pretty basic advice, right? Well, the question is how? How do I keep moving? For many years, I thought the answer was consistency. But then, a couple years ago, I made a breakthrough discovery. I realized that the people who had setbacks, the people who could not succeed in transforming their bodies and lives, were just as consistent as the people who were succeeding. You see, they were consistently following patterns of action that kept them where they were. And the people who were moving forward were consistently following patterns of action that kept them moving forward. So the key is transforming your patterns of action.
I play hockey a couple of nights a week, and we'd have beers after the games, and of course those beers ended up around my waistline, and those abdominals that I once had, which I thought I could still see in the mirror, were no longer there.
I'm 25 years old, and when I should be in the best shape of my life, and I let myself look like this. So I was ashamed of how I looked and not living up to what I had expected for myself.
I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I started working out. I started jogging. I started taking the stairs instead of elevators and escalators. I started using the muscles that I had.
It's important to realize that what makes one pattern of action good and another pattern of action bad is merely a matter of whether it takes us closer to or further away from where we want to be. You see, your brain doesn't really care which pattern of action it reinforces. Bad ones feel just as natural as good ones. Patterns of action are like the route of our habits. They're the rules that we follow automatically. These are the things that we do without even knowing we're doing them. We've all got them. We've got patterns of action for how we work, how we eat, how we relate to other people, how we exercise or how we don't exercise, how we do everything. And the only thing that makes one pattern of action good and another bad is whether it takes us closer to or pushes us further away from our goals. The dangerous thing is your brain doesn't care which patterns of action it reinforces. Unhealthy ones feel just as natural as healthy ones once they become ingrained. The good news is, reprogramming your patterns of action so they work for you rather than against you is not that complicated. The key is first deciding what you want, which you've already done by setting your goals. Now you must carefully evaluate your patterns of action and determine which ones might hold you back. After that, you need to commit yourself to replacing those bad patterns of action with good ones, which is a completely different thing than being focused on being committed.
All you have to do is follow the right protocol, the right training, nutrition. And if you have the determination, you have to have the determination in there to make it all stick together.
Just hit the gym real hard. I came back after the summer season and got into the locker room, and a hockey locker room is a very close place. We talk a lot, and I take my shirt off, and these guys are just, what happened to you? Where have you been? I just told them I quit drinking beer and started training hard.
Now, unfortunately, most people don't deliberately choose their habits. They fall into them like a rut, and they have no idea how they got there. They get hooked on patterns of action which control their lives, but they can't see what they're doing. They can recognize and bemoan the individual actions, but the patterns, they're invisible unless you look for them, unless you consciously make the decision to find those patterns and transform them. When you successfully transform your patterns of action, you'll make breakthroughs that you might not ever even believe you could, but you have to try. So here's how we do it. Exercise number 1. Okay, I need you to identify 3 patterns of action that we're going to call unauthorized. To complete this exercise, I need you to think about those 12-week goals you made. Think about what patterns are congruent with those objectives. The patterns of action which are not in alignment with your goals will not take you any further. In order to move upward and onward, those patterns have to go. You have to transform them. For example, if one of your goals is to lose 20 pounds of fat and gain 10 pounds of muscle over the next 12 weeks, you may have to change the way you're feeding your body. Actions like eating high-fat, low-nutrient junk food and forgetting to eat or skipping workouts will have to be eliminated. Now, don't try to change all your patterns at one time. I'm only asking you to take the 3 patterns of action which you know are holding you back and write them down on a piece of paper. Those patterns are linked to many other patterns. For example, when you transform the pattern of not exercising and you start working out regularly, all kinds of other things come together. You start sleeping better. You start craving less junk food. You start drinking more water. Patterns like drinking buddies hang out together. And when you transform one, you'll find many others just fall into place. So let's focus on 3 main patterns of action that you're going to say have got to go. After you've identified them, write them down. Then ask yourself if you're really willing to give up those patterns. Remember, half of getting what you want is knowing what you have to give up to get it. And these patterns, if they're not working for you, they're working against you. And you have to say, cut, next, get rid of them. If you want to build a leaner, healthier body, these things have got to be unauthorized. Get rid of them, they're poison. The second part of this exercise is to decide 3 new patterns of action you must adopt. See, now that you've written down 3 patterns of action which are not consistent with your goals, we need to look at those and write down 3 new habits you need to establish to replace those old ones. For example, instead of watching TV, you might need to use that time to go to the gym. If one of your unauthorized patterns is not eating regularly, well, you'll need to transform that into planning meals ahead of time and eating nutritious protein and carbohydrate containing meals throughout the day.
I usually on Saturday or Sunday of every week, I prepared all my food for the entire week.
We buy a big bag of chicken, and every Sunday I'm out there on my barbecue.
In doing so, I found that it allowed me to be on autopilot for the entire week.
All right, now what I'm asking you to do is take out that piece of paper again and write down 3 new patterns of action. Right across from the ones that are unauthorized, and I want you to write above them, authorized. All right, well, I hope you're following along with this, because this one exercise alone could change your entire life. You see, it's those patterns that we fall into, those patterns that guide us. They pull us around in circles. They keep us from spiraling upwards. And believe me, you don't want to just do circles all your life. That's what I call the goldfish theory of life. Swim around, look back out the front, swim around. Remember, we're human beings. We have the mind and the spirit to ascend, to rise. These patterns will hold you down. You have to break them.
I think, like most people, just the day-to-day grind of the job will present an obstacle for you. There's going to always be a time where something will come up in your job that will interfere with your diet or training or supplement program. And it was only through proper preparation that I was able to deal with those obstacles and still fit the meals in, still get the training done.
Okay, so you've decided which patterns you're going to transform. You've identified which ones are authorized and which ones aren't authorized. But don't stop there. Breaking patterns of action is something that you need to develop as a lifelong process. See, the patterns that get you to where you want to be 12 weeks from now might not be the patterns that you need to get you 12 weeks from there. It's that process of constantly changing, reevaluating, breaking patterns of action that aren't keeping us moving forward in a positive way. Hey, by the way, if procrastinating is one of your patterns of action that is not helping you get where you want to go, you can break that pattern now by simply completing these 2 simple exercises.
I put things off a lot, and not that I don't some now, but for the most part I get everything done that I want to get done, and I do it now because there's no time to waste. My relationships have all improved, and I think that's because I'm more confident about myself. I love myself more probably than I did when I started this competition, and that comes out in everything that you do, and I think it's reciprocated.
Okay, the next transformation technique that I think is very important that you understand is how to turn adversity into energy. Hey, picture this. For the first time in a long time, perhaps the first time ever, all aspects of your life are coming together. You've begun to successfully eliminate counterproductive patterns of action, and you're moving forward in the direction of your goals. You're looking better, you're feeling better. That stubborn fat is finally melting away. In its place, firm, strong, healthy muscle. You're getting stronger, you're getting healthier. You're well on your way to a new body and a better life. You're a success in progress, and you feel unstoppable until adversity strikes. Something goes wrong that you didn't expect. Hey, you know, these hits can come from any direction. It might be an injury that makes it difficult to exercise. Hey, it might be somebody robbed your home, or it might have been that your job got transferred to another state. Hey, the good news is that kind of stuff only happens to the other guy, right? Wrong. The fact is, adversity hits all of us, and not just once in a blue moon. No one is exempt. And when trouble, in whatever form strikes, it can bring your progress to a screeching halt. It can stop your momentum, it can cripple your self-esteem. Now, see, that's a situation where one thing after another just doesn't go your way. Unfortunately, there's no training program, there's no miracle pill that can make you immune to adversity. So does that mean there's nothing we can do about it? Well, yes and no. You can't always prevent ill fortune, especially that which you have no control over. But what you can do is expect it, because it's a part of life. In fact, you must expect it. That's the only way to deal with it. And I mention this now because it's one of the main reasons that people don't successfully complete their 12-week program. They don't expect anything to go wrong. So what I'm asking you to do is expect adversity and resolve in advance that when it hits, you keep your chin up, you keep your eyes looking forward, and you stay determined to reach your goals. It's also very important to realize that it's because of, not in spite of, misfortune that we grow. You see, our true strength will only really be tested when things aren't going our way. You see, it's easy to be a hero in times of prosperity, but those who have the courage to succeed in spite of adversity, well, they become an inspiration. They contribute value to the lives of others. They make a difference.
Sometimes life can be going along just great. I mean, it will come up and blindside you. It will hit you so hard it will knock you to your knees.
I couldn't let that defeat me, and I was just determined to make something good happen out of bad situations.
Everyone's going to experience tragedies in life. That's just how life is. and it's how we react to them that makes us successful.
And even though I had some obstacles that really tested me, I found that in the end it made me a stronger person and really made me realize that if you're willing to gut it up, there is a tremendous reward at the end of the road.
When you look at adversity this way, you will realize that misfortune is a bridge, not a barricade. And when problems present themselves, you have to see them as the opening of doors, not the closing of them. And friends, this isn't just the right way to deal with adversity, it's the only way.
I'd been having problems, and I'd went to specialists, and I knew something was wrong. I could feel it. I just wasn't myself. And so one day we were fishing, and I got a real bad cold. And while we were out in a boat, I just got where I couldn't breathe. I just clogged up. So he said, "Vicki, I'm gonna have to take you to the emergency room." So when I get over there, and this guy came in, and he said, "Ma'am," he said, "this is bad." Well, here I had to drive almost 40-something miles back, and I bawled the whole way, and I'm going, geez, I can't tell them. How am I going to tell my mother? How am I going to tell my kids? How am I going to tell my husband? So I go to where my husband works, and I go in, and I tell the secretary, I said, I need to see Tom. And before he gets there, I just fall apart. And I said, "Tom," they said I got cancer. And I said, "I'm not going to make it." And then I go to my mom's. And I said, "Mom, I'm going to die." And it was so devastating. And so I talked to Dr. Hefner, and I said, "Well, what would you do if it was your wife?" And he said, "Well, if it's my wife, I'd put her in the hospital today." So I said, "Well, I'm going to go home. Let me think about this." I sat up all night long, and I'm going, Vicki, I didn't feel like I could go through this again. I just felt like I couldn't. So I went back to the doctor, and I said, "Well, give me 3 more months, and then I'll make a decision. If it hasn't grown or anything, we'll decide something." And so one day, I did find out about the contest. One of my customers left this magazine for me, had a page folded over, and he said, "Vicki, you should try this." And then I picked it up when things got slow and asked my boss would he think I could do this. Because when I read the article, it's like something clicked in my head. And it's like, I would love to do this, but, I didn't have a clue. Not a clue. And so I found a gym in Emporia, and to get there, I had to drive 59 miles. Well, I got there that morning and pulled up in front of this gym, and I felt like a little first grader their mother had left them on the sidewalk to go to school. And there was times that I was so sick. And then I'd get up and I'd go to the gym, and man, I'd work out. I'd feel great. Well, I did this 12-week program. I worked out hard. I ate right. I changed everything I was doing. I changed. And then when I got my body functioning right, I knew my body was going to heal itself. Something told me, I don't know what. And when I went back to my cancer doctors, they did a mammogram, they did an ultrasound, they did x-rays. They were determined that it was there. Nothing. Not an active cancer cell in my system. And I feel wonderful.
Okay, the next transformation technique I want to tell you about is called the universal law of reciprocation. And quite simply, what it means is that the more you and I help others, the more our own lives are enhanced. And this is important because if you're going to make the changes in your life that you've decided to make, you're going to need support. Unfortunately, most people have this law completely backwards. They want to get before they give. And in the long run, this formula never works. My experience is this. When I focus on creating value for others in my personal or professional life, I don't get back a return that merely equals what I invest. My return is double, triple, sometimes 10 times as great. This is such a fundamental truth that I don't even think about it. I don't even pay attention to the future return or what the payoff will be because I know it always comes. One way to put the universal law of reciprocation to work for you is to merely give other people positive feedback. Develop the pattern of identifying things about people around you that are uniquely positive and to share that feedback with them. In return, these people will support you. When you put this exercise to work, it creates immediate results. By looking for what's right in people, you block out what's wrong. This is important because what you send out is what you get back. And if you're in the gym and you feel negative and you feel that no one is supporting you, well, that's what you're sending out. You need to change what you're sending out in order to change what you're getting back. Okay, another way to put the universal law of reciprocation into effect is to support a worthwhile cause. Maybe it's a church, maybe it's somebody that needs your help, maybe it's something you can help raise money for. And remember, you don't have to donate money to support a cause. You can volunteer your time, your resources, your talent, your strength. And you may or may not know it, but you've already started this exercise. You see, all the proceeds that would go to me from the sale of any Body for Life product instead go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And their mission is to create special memories and moments of happiness in the lives of children and their families around the world that have been shattered by cancer, muscular dystrophy, heart disease, or other serious illnesses. I don't think there's really any words that could describe how much I've received in return from supporting the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But that's the way the universal law of reciprocation works. When you put out and you give unselfishly, it comes back to you. It creates a more positive environment for you to thrive in. And I can certainly attest to the fact that this is true. And we've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to raise over $1 million for the Make-A-Wish Foundation over the past year and a half, starting with our Body of Work video project and now with the Body for Life program. It's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever been involved in. The important thing is to give often and not expect anything in return. When you do this, you'll not only create greater value for someone else's life, you also create a more positive environment for your own. Okay, here's another way to put the universal law of reciprocation into effect. I call it giving others hope.
When people come up to me and tell me that they've started working out and taking the supplements all because of me and my diet's helped them, it's the greatest feeling in the world. That's another thing that you can't really express with words. It really means a lot to me.
If we could just touch one person's life and help them overcome whatever they need to overcome to become a better person and feel better about themselves, that'd be a pretty great thing to do.
And you can do this by simply leading by example. You see, when you succeed at this process, when you succeed in changing your life and changing your body, people are going to look at you. They're going to become inspired by you. You're going to become a role model. You're going to create positive energy for other people to use to help them move their life forward in a positive way. And remember, when they progress, it's like your success happening all over again, and it builds more and more positive energy. And this is one of the most special things I've seen happening, is that people are connecting and they're feeling the success of one another. They're becoming a community of people who believe in helping other people. And if you've made that decision, well, welcome to the team.
One of the things I do in my business is I raise money for philanthropic causes. And I love the quote that says, when you pursue your own dreams, you create passion, and when you help others attain their dreams, you create heaven. And that's a little corny, but it really is true.
Okay, by now I'm guessing you're beginning to see and probably even feel the power of the tried and true transformation techniques that we've been learning about. And I'm also guessing that right about now you might be asking, how am I going to find time to do all these exercises? Well, you aren't going to find time. You're going to create time. You see, as much as you or I might try to convince ourselves that we simply don't have time to do all these things, the truth is it's just not the case. Believe it or not, people who are remarkably successful at this process, successful in the gym and out of it, have exactly 24 hours in every day, just like you and I do. You know, there's not a single person on the planet who's figured out how to get more out of a day than 1,440 minutes. So why do some people seem to create so much more space in those 24 hours than others? I've discovered most people truly want the time to do the things they feel they should do. They simply don't understand how to create the necessary time. Instead, they've bought into the perception that they are too busy. And let me warn you that whatever you perceive, you believe. Most people just don't know how to create the time they need to grab themselves by the bootstraps and change their life for the better. The good news is creating time isn't really all that complicated. I'm going to tell you about some techniques right now that you can use and start creating time today. The first thing that we need to do is recognize where a lot of our time goes and try to get it back. And that way we're creating time. For example, a lot of people pour hours and hours into watching television. In fact, statistics show that the average American watches 30 hours of TV a week. What TV actually does is hypnotize you. I mean, think about what you look like when you're sitting there on the couch watching TV. You're literally staring off into space, thinking about nothing, accomplishing nothing, and being nothing. Now, I'm not telling you to give up television altogether, but I am asking you to be aware of what you're doing when you settle down in front of the tube. Every time you turn on the TV, just ask yourself, could this time be better spent doing something else? If you answer that question, you'll know what to do. Now, you probably don't watch that much TV, But it is possible that if you're having difficulty finding time for exercise, finding time to eat the quality nutrition that your body needs, you could probably pick up an hour, 2, 3, maybe 4 hours a week if you cut back on the time you spend in front of the television.
And I was drinking too many cold beers, and I had just gotten in a horrible rut, eating bad and laying on the couch watching sports on TV instead of participating in them.
Another thing you can do to create time is just become a better planner. This is one of the best and simplest time-creating techniques I've ever discovered. Remember, we've already talked about writing down those 5 daily win lists, those 5 daily goals. Those will help create time. And when you keep a list of what you're going to do the next day, get in the habit of scheduling your workouts and planning everything you're going to do in the day. You see, if you have no idea what you're going to do tomorrow until tomorrow comes, you'll wind up wasting a lot of time reacting, adjusting, and trying to figure out just exactly what to do, when to do it, or how to do it. When you plan ahead, you eliminate a lot of unnecessary problems. Now, of course, you can't plan everything, but scheduling your time, which, as I talked about earlier, only takes a few minutes a night, you can easily pick up an hour you didn't even know you had. Okay, here's another technique. Exercise. Yes, exercise. You see, this is an example of the perceived problem being part of the solution. Look, it's a scientific fact that the proper amount of exercise creates energy. Now, as you'll learn about later in this program, too much exercise can actually leave you run down and burned out. But a good, brief, intense, efficient workout, like the Body for Life workout, stimulates your muscles. It doesn't annihilate you. And when you have more energy, you get more things done. You live with the power mindset, which means you're more confident. You make better decisions faster. This frees up time for everything. And remember, I'm only asking you for 4 hours of exercise a week. This process takes less than 5% of your time.
It helps me to get a lot more out of my time and out of my day. I have a lot more energy to do the things that I couldn't quite get everything done before. So instead of it taking an extra 45 minutes a day or an extra hour out of my day, it actually adds to my day.
My next time-saving technique may surprise you. It's get more sleep. But this is exactly the opposite of what people do when they try to create time. But this is a mistake. This is a big mistake. Think about it. Sleep is a miraculous phenomenon. It's absolutely essential to our well-being and our health. It's free, yet we cheat ourselves out of it more than we indulge in it. You see, if you want to build a better body, if you want to get strong, if you want to feel healthy, if you want to live with that power mindset, you have to get at least 6 hours of sleep a night, maybe 8. Anybody that tells you they get by on less than 6 hours of sleep is running on empty. They would look and they would feel a lot better if they got more sleep. They'd be more efficient. They'd be creating time. Okay, here's my next time-creating technique. Eat nutritious meals. You see, when you provide your body with a constant supply of the nutrients it needs to stay healthy and strong, you have consistent energy throughout the day, you can avoid those mid-afternoon slumps, and you can get more done faster. Once again, as is the case with regular exercise, adhering to a proper nutrition program doesn't rob you of time. Eating right today has never been easier. It really doesn't take a lot of time to follow a proper nutrition program. In fact, I probably spend less time a day preparing and consuming my 6 healthy, nutrient-rich meals than millions of people do sitting in line at a drive-thru.
I was kind of the brunt of jokes when I carried my grocery bag in every morning. I usually had 2 meals and 2 shakes, and I'd have the shakes in the Tupperware containers, and I'd pull one of those out, and I'd be in the middle of a meeting with somebody, and I'd pull one out, and I'd start drinking it, and they go, what's that? Is that Pepto-Bismol? I go, no, it's just my mid-morning meal.
Okay, here's another way to create more time for yourself, and that is, don't try to do everything yourself. Delegate. That means get some help with projects. You see, what I've discovered by being around some of the most successful actors and athletes in the world is that they don't do everything themselves. For example, John Elway doesn't help his friends move. Arnold doesn't do the dishes. Sly doesn't mow his lawn. Now, I know that might seem hard to believe, folks, but it's true. You know what they do? Instead, they focus on activities that produce a major outcome. It's so disappointing to me when people tell me they missed a workout or they missed a meal because they had to run an errand. I mean, come on, folks. If you've decided to build a better body, and if you've decided to move your life forward in a positive way, and you're having a problem trying to decide whether you should go work out or drive clear across town to a mall to return a pair of jeans that didn't fit, then I highly recommend you become more resourceful. Try this. Every time you think you must run an errand or spend 2 hours paying your bills, doing laundry, painting your house, helping someone move, changing the oil in your car, or any one of dozens of other ultra-low outcome activities, stop and think about this. There are people who make a living doing those things, and they would be delighted to do those things for a surprisingly small amount of money. And the time that you create by letting someone else do those things and not trying to do everything yourself will yield the value you need to pay these people and much, much more. So don't try to do everything yourself. The bottom line is this: you can create enough time to build a strong, healthy body, and you'll create more time for everything truly meaningful in your life in the process.